Morning, everyone. Blessed to be here on this Lord's Day. There won't be any service this afternoon. We're canceling service tonight because we've got family in. And many people here, we spend it with our families. And it's a good thing. I ask at this time, how many people here do we have that's their uncle, father, husband gave the ultimate price for the freedom that we live today? I know there's 2 here, 3 here. 3 people gave their lives for us to be able to sit here on this Sunday morning. I wonder, I asked my son yesterday, I said, "Hey, what's Memorial Day about?" He said, "It's the day that we think of our vets and remember those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, that died for our country." My son remembered that. But, ain't it like this? I was listening to said that Memorial Day is the first day of summer. That's what it's become. From a little lady in the Civil War putting flowers on her dead son's grave to now it's the kickoff of summer and fun for a nation that's forgotten where they came from. A nation where husbands and fathers and uncles and brothers gave their life's blood, their very life. Miss Betty grew up without a daddy for this country. You lost an uncle. Miss Judy, who was it you lost? A brother? Uncle?
I had a brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law,
I'm not a brother-in-law, but a half-brother.
Half-brother.
Yeah.
They done without, so we could have. And I think about that commercial on TV. I don't know if y'all pay much attention to it. The man says, "I gave my leg for freedom, and I do it again." Another, "I miss Christmas and birthdays. I do it again." One lady says she lost her family, but she do it again. All for the price of freedom, so a bunch of people could travel to the beach around the 30th of May and act like complete idiots. That's the truth. It's the truth. I wonder how many of them down here floating down the waterways thought, "Gee, me and Bled died for me to have this freedom." I live in a country where I could burn the flag, the same flag that those men that bled and died was buried under. And they got the freedom to burn that flag if they want to. They got the freedom to hate everything they used to hate about this great land that we live in. And they have no idea where it comes from. No idea. Could care less. Who's ever heard the Battle of Chancellorsville? That was in the Civil War. How God must have felt to have like-minded, believing people on each side of the line praying, "Lord, let me win. Lord, let me survive. Let me see the end of the day," instead of them. How it had to break his heart. Because they both loved him, and they both had an idea that they thought was right, and they were fighting for it. And our Confederate flag is so bad, and maybe it does to some people represent something bad, slavery. I never owned any slaves. I don't know any that's still alive. I know my grandpa told me that. Let me ask you something, son. If you had a mule, you gonna feed it, take care of it, or you gonna starve it and beat it to death? I said, I'd feed it and take care of it. You see, there you go, son. There's the answer to what the Civil War wasn't about slavery. It was about an idea of a group of people not liking how another group of people were living. That's what it was about. Another year, slavery would have been done away with because you had the cotton gin that was being built, and they wouldn't need slaves to pick the cotton anymore. But what they had here was 10 times better than what they had where they come from. Their own people sold them. But, you know, it was an idea. Countries have ideas that they believe in. Wars have been fought over ideas that people believed in and felt so strongly about. And you know, that was the defining time of a country that in the beginning loved the Lord. And maybe that line was drawn, and maybe brother fought against brother or whatever. But I'm sure it broke God's heart. And for us to think something like that couldn't happen again, young people, don't be fooled, it can. It can happen again. But Chancellorsville, someone that we all heard of, Stonewall Jackson. I'm sure we've all heard of Stonewall Jackson. The battle was over, it was in the evening time. He went out to survey the field of battle. We won. And was coming back across the Confederate lines. They had a code word that they would say, and they could have safe passage. Well, he was coming back into camp and gave the code word, and our boys thought it was just a trick by the Yankees. It's a trick. So they fired into that group of horses. They hit Stonewall Jackson, the Confederate general. You know, he was right up there with General Lee said, "My heart is broken because I've lost my right hand." That's how he felt about Stonewall Jackson. He said, "My heart is broken and I've lost my right hand, my right arm." The wounds from the rifle were what killed him. He got pneumonia, and they had him in a house like they did many days. That's how they healed people. They would put him in a house and the doctor couldn't get him and nurse him. He died on a Sunday. He loved the same God that I love. And he said, "It's fitting that I should die on a Sunday." I always wanted to die on Sunday. And that was the last thing he said. That ain't the end of the story. Would you and did you know he was shot by a man named Elias Register from Crusoe? Yep. 18th North Carolina Regiment. He was one of the ones fired a shot. They don't, you know, he can't say I shot him, but he fired into the horses. And from what I hear, that man, every time he told that story, he cried. He was an alcoholic the rest of his life. That's how he died. Right there in Crusoe. So much has been given for us to have the freedom that we have today. That's why I say that. We should remember things from the past to make sure it don't happen again. If you have your Bibles, turn to the book of 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 24. If you read a few verses there. think of, you know, God could think about how man had just broke his heart. The fall of man in the Garden of Eden, where we chose sin over perfect peace. The flood, when only a handful of people believed, and he flooded the earth. So many times through the Bible, God could remember us breaking his heart. He could remember us today, how we break his heart even now. But it's got to be, and then maybe I just look and think things different than what most people do. But I'm sure that was a time whenever we were fighting amongst ourselves here. That had to be terrible for a brother to be on one side and the other, and just for they said that Stonewall's sister was so much against the South that she said that she was okay. She was glad that she hated to know that she had a brother that died for the reason that he did, but that didn't change anything. But I thought of David, his remembrance of things through his life and where he had wound up over toward the end of his life. In 2 Samuel, we're reading in verse 16 and 17. And when the angel stretched out his hand upon Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord repented him of the evil. I mean, right there, fixing to destroy Jerusalem, all those people, and God said no. There had to be some small part of good that God saw and said, this is David, a man after my own heart, and decided to spare him. And I feel that's like where we're here today at this point in time. The only reason why we're still here is because God has chosen to spare us of what we truly deserve. But when we get what we deserve, I've said it before, I wonder how many prisoners sit there in a prison cell and remember all the times that someone witnessed to them, that someone begged them to make a change in their life. Do they sit there and say, Lord, I wish that I would have done different? They can't be glad in the situation they're in. But when we get what we deserve, those thoughts come running back every time that it was offered and we chose to do different. I'm sure it does. I know it does with me. In verse 16, and said to the angel that destroyed the people, it is enough, stay now thine hand, keep thine hand from destroying Jerusalem. And the angel of the Lord was by the threshing place, Aruna of the Jebusite. And David spake unto the Lord when he saw the angel that smote the people, and said, Lo, I have sinned, and I have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let thy hand, I pray thee, be against me and against my father's house. David taking responsibility for his actions there. So many times in his life, we would see him grow. He would go to a point of just greatness and then, crash and burn. In our lives, our daily lives, we remember these things. Remember the day we were saved, the day that the blood covered us. wouldn't it be nice though to pick and choose what we wanted to remember? Pick the good, leave out the bad. But in our minds, you know, as try as you may, that one thing, God has equipped us with a mind to remember things. He didn't have to do that. We could have just lived each day as if it was, and yesterday never existed. But He gave us a mind to remember yesterday. That mind of remembrance is for us to ask for forgiveness, maybe. To realize the error in our ways, to remember the good things. If God didn't intend for us to have that mind that could remember, He wouldn't have equipped us in that way. But wouldn't it be nice just to go through and pick the good out, leave the bad, and you know, as if it never even happened? But the bad sometimes is what changes us so that we have a good outcome. It shapes us, forms us. If it were supposed to be like that, it wouldn't be. I'm a firm believer that God would have made us. We would live one day, and one day that was it. Nothing happened yesterday. It's all, you know, from here on, what's in front of us. I think people choose to live their life like that. And there's some things, let's face it, that we would just as soon forget about. Lord knows I can think of things this day that I've done, and it still embarrasses me and makes my face, makes me blush. You know? And it'd be nice to forget that, but every once in a while that dredges up in my mind, maybe to make me a forgiving person. A humble person, you can do that also. But God made us with this mind, just as David had there. He said, you know, Lord, let it be on me for what I've done wrong. Why do these have to suffer? Lord, let it be on me, let it fall on me. You know, there's so much that we have to be thankful for on this Memorial Day. Every drop of blood that was ever shed for this great land. And there's been a bunch of it, known and unknown. You know? And those people that gave all, Lord, they have a place near and dear to my heart. You know, the way I look at things for the freedoms I enjoy, God, for my spiritual freedom, but for my physical freedom to come and go, is because men gave it all. And the only way they could is by Him. Whether they realize it or not. Memories, memorials. It's just so sad that we come to this place in this land. I wish people would be broken one time. I wish they would think about what the reason is for a day like today. We turn it into a holiday. Shame on us. But we're here this morning. Look and think back over your lives. What's the Memorial Day? What's it mean to you? Remembrance of your life and how you've been forgiven. The greatest blood that was ever shed on Calvary. And am I really grateful and thankful for that today? you know. Think about these that's done without so that you could have. That's him here. Young David, a man willing to accept his wrong in his life and be thankful of a God that remembered that, the man after his own heart, spared a land, and how he's sparing us today. You know, it could be tomorrow. I mean, we ain't never had to wake up with tanks rolling down our highways and roadblocks and not being able to come and go as freely as we want to. If you got the gas to burn, you can come and go. What would that be like? What would it be like for chains to be across that door next Sunday morning and somebody standing there and we couldn't enter in? You know? What would that be like? And who would even care? That's the question. I mean, we would. But a lot of people could care less. Sad fact. Sad fact. They don't want to know any of this stuff I talked about this morning. I don't want to know that. They just want to have fun. But let us remember. We come with an invitation this morning. I don't know this morning. Your heart, how you are with the Lord, that's between you and Him. Remember the freshness of the love you felt for God when your salvation was new, whenever God first called you. When He shed His blood on Calvary for Chris Stanley all the years ago. And for you, and for you.
Page 345 in the church.
Striving along to
y'all please, keep Caitlin in your prayers. She's having a rough day. Girl's been sick a long time, so y'all keep her in your prayers. All hearts and minds clear. That's Brother Legal, if you do his business.
Terrible day. We decide you, listen you, your word, you left your voice, study, or live it best we know how. We thank you for the church and the people that make it up. We just pray for you, for tonight, that we have to do things like that, you know.
You ladies have a good day, man. All right?
You too.
Hey, you done?
Yeah, old lady.
Are you farming now?
Hey, I'm leaving this for y'all to throw away. Sure, don't be cussing nobody. Have a good week, say, this ass as,
See you, Shorty.
we say we don't like it, good to ass, just as good. Yeah.